The rain fell steadily outside, drumming softly against the window pane as I sank deeper into my worn-out sofa. It had been a long week, and tonight, I wanted nothing more than silence and solitude. The TV flickered in the background, volume low, playing some documentary I wasn't really watching. Just as I began to drift into a comfortable stillness, a sharp knock echoed through the apartment. I frowned. It was nearly midnight. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened the door to find Maya, my best friend Rishi's younger sister, standing alone in the hallway. Her jacket was soaked, her eyes red-rimmed, and her shoulders drawn tight as if the weight of the world rested there. "Maya?" I blinked, trying to mask my surprise. "What are you doing here?" She hesitated before speaking. "Can I come in for a bit?" I didn't know where else to go. Without waiting for an answer, she stepped inside, brushing past me. The scent of rain and jasmine clung to her as she walked toward the couch. I closed the door behind her, trying to piece together what was happening. "Everything okay?" I asked gently. She nodded, then shook her head. "Just a fight at home. Nothing new." Her voice cracked slightly. "I couldn't stay there tonight." I offered her a towel, which she accepted with a weak smile. We sat in silence for a moment as she dried her hair and wiped her face. We hadn't spent much time together in years. When she was younger, Maya had always tagged along when Rishi and I played video games or hung out. But time and age had drawn lines between us, and we drifted into different worlds. Now, sitting across from her, I was struck by how much she had changed, how much older, more composed, yet clearly vulnerable she looked. "I'm sorry for barging in like this," she said finally. "I didn't mean to make things awkward." "It's not awkward," I said a little too quickly. "I'm just surprised." She chuckled softly. "You were always the one who kept your cool. Even when I'd steal the controller just to annoy you." I laughed, and for a moment, the tension in the room lightened. I went to the kitchen and made 2 mugs of tea. When I handed hers over, our fingers brushed briefly. She looked up and held my gaze a second longer than expected. "You've changed too," she said quietly. "In a good way." I took a sip, unsure how to respond. Outside, the rain intensified, blurring the streetlights into streaks of gold. "Do you want to stay the night?" I asked cautiously. "I have an extra room." She didn't answer right away. Then slowly she nodded. "Thank you. That means more than you know." As I handed her a blanket and showed her to the spare room, a quiet unease settled in my chest. I couldn't shake the feeling that tonight would not be as simple as it seemed. And I was right. Morning light had barely begun to creep through the blinds when I found Maya already awake, sitting at the dining table with a mug of untouched tea. She looked like she hadn't slept at all, her eyes tired, her expression distant. "I hope you are comfortable," I said, trying to ease the silence. She nodded faintly. "I couldn't sleep. Too many thoughts." I sat across from her, unsure how to navigate the sudden emotional terrain between us. "Want to talk about it?" Maya hesitated, then sighed. "My parents don't really listen. They treat me like a child, like I can't make any decisions. I try to explain how I feel, but it's like speaking into a void. Last night, I just couldn't take it anymore." Her voice trembled at the edges, and instinctively, I reached across the table, placing my hand gently over hers. She didn't pull away. "You've always been stronger than you realize," I said softly. "Even when we were kids, you had this stubborn fire in you." She smiled faintly, the corners of her lips curling upward, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. After breakfast, we tried to distract ourselves. I pulled out an old board game, something nostalgic and familiar. We played in near silence, the clatter of dice and occasional laughter filling the gaps. Slowly, the tension eased. As the sun dipped beyond the city skyline, a subtle shift settled between us. We ended up back on the sofa, closer this time. The space that once felt casual now carried weight. Our knees touched slightly. She leaned her head on my shoulder without saying a word. "I missed this," she murmured. I glanced down at her, uncertain. Missed what? This, being seen. Feeling safe. I forgot what that felt like. The air thickened. Her words dug deeper than I expected. I could feel her breath, slow and steady, against my neck. Maya, I started, my voice low, unsure. She lifted her head. I know what you're thinking, and I don't care right now. I don't want to feel alone anymore. Before I could respond, she leaned in and kissed me, soft, deliberate, and slow. My instincts screamed to pull back. This was Rishi's sister. Lines existed for a reason, but my hands didn't listen. Neither did hers. The kiss deepened, carrying with it all the confusion, loneliness, and emotion that had been simmering beneath the surface. We paused only briefly, both breathing heavily, eyes locked. We shouldn't, I whispered. But we already did, she said. We stayed like that, wrapped in each other's arms, the world outside forgotten. But beneath the warmth and comfort, guilt began to take root. A voice in the back of my mind reminded me this moment would not come without a cost. And yet, as night fell again and she rested her head against my chest, I chose silence. But consequences don't wait for guilt to settle. The following morning carried an unnatural stillness. Sunlight filtered through the blinds, but its warmth felt hollow. I awoke to find Maya curled beside me on the couch, her fingers loosely grasping mine. For a fleeting moment, everything seemed calm, like nothing had changed. But peace is a fragile illusion. Maya stirred slowly and sat up, rubbing her temple. Her complexion looked paler than usual, and her movements were sluggish. I feel off, she whispered. Did you eat anything yesterday? I asked, concerned. She nodded weakly, but then winced as if even remembering hurt. My stomach. It's cramping. I helped her to her feet, but her knees buckled, and she collapsed into my arms. Panic surged through me. Maya? Talk to me. Her breathing was shallow now, and sweat dotted her forehead. I didn't wait. I grabbed my keys, wrapped her in a jacket, and carried her to the car. The hospital wasn't far, but every red light felt like an eternity. At the emergency room, the nurses took her immediately. I sat in the waiting area, my hands shaking. Thoughts spiraled. Was it something I did? Something I missed? An hour later, a doctor approached. She's stable now, but dehydrated and under severe stress. Do you know if she had any underlying health conditions or recent trauma? I shook my head, stunned. No. She didn't say anything. You should inform her family, he said. The words hit me like a brick. Her family. Rishi. My fingers hovered over my phone screen for a full minute before I forced myself to call. He picked up almost instantly. Hey man, what's up? His voice, casual and unaware, made my chest tighten. It's Maya, I said, barely holding steady. She's in the hospital. Silence. Then, what? Why? What happened? I tried to explain, but he cut me off. Wait. Why was she with you? Since when? What the hell is going on? 20 minutes later, Rishi stormed into the hospital, eyes blazing. He spotted me and marched over, fury radiating from every step. You were supposed to be my friend, he spat. You knew she was vulnerable. And what did you do? It's not like that, I said quickly. She came to me. She needed help. I didn't plan. He stepped back, disgusted. She trusted you. I trusted you. Before I could say anything else, the nurse called for him. He turned and walked away without another word. I slumped into the chair, the weight of the moment pressing down like a vice. In trying to protect Maya, I had shattered a bond one thought was unbreakable. The doctor returned later and mentioned transferring Maya for better care. 3 hospitals in 2 days. Her condition wasn't life-threatening, but her emotional state was fragile. I stared at the sterile white walls, realization dawning. One night, one choice, and the damage was already rippling beyond control. And the worst was still to come. 3 days passed. Maya remained under medical observation, her vitals steady, but her spirit dulled. I visited when I could, though her family began to cast long, suspicious shadows around every corner of the hospital. Rishi, in particular, avoided my gaze. When he did speak to me, It was with clipped words and eyes that held the weight of betrayal. Maya, however, didn't blame me. When I finally sat beside her hospital bed, she reached for my hand, her grip weak but deliberate. "I never wanted this to turn into chaos," she whispered. "I know," I murmured, my voice heavy with guilt. "I should have been stronger. I should have known better." She looked away, blinking back tears. "They think I'm broken. Like what happened to me was a result of recklessness, not emotion." We sat in silence for a long moment, both trying to assemble the jagged pieces of what we had shattered. I thought back to that rainy night, the comfort we found, the warmth we mistook for something simple. But now, clarity pierced through the memory. We had crossed a line not just of friendship, but of trust, and now the price had begun to surface. Later that evening, Rishi confronted me outside Maya's room. "She's getting discharged tomorrow," he said bluntly. "That's good," I replied. He nodded slowly. "She'll stay with relatives for a while. Somewhere quiet, away from everything." There was a pause before he added, "I still can't look at you the same." I didn't defend myself. What could I say that wouldn't sound like justification? "I get it," I said finally, "and I don't expect forgiveness. But I never meant to hurt her. Or you." His jaw clenched. "You didn't just hurt us. You cracked the foundation of everything I thought was solid." That hit deeper than I expected. The next morning I returned one last time. Maya stood by the window, dressed and ready to leave, her expression distant but composed. "I don't regret caring about you," she said quietly without turning. "But I regret how it happened," I replied. She finally turned, eyes meeting mine. "Maybe someday we'll remember this as a strange chapter in a life full of better ones." And with that, she walked out, a nurse trailing behind her. I remained rooted in place, watching the elevator doors close with a finality I hadn't braced for. Back home, the apartment was too quiet. Her cup still sat by the sink, a blanket folded neatly on the couch. Echoes of our choices lingered in the silence. I had always believed betrayal came from cold hearts or selfish intent. But I'd learned that sometimes it comes quietly, wrapped in comfort, cloaked in empathy, until it leaves scars just as deep. And though no one spoke it aloud, we all knew what happened between us wasn't love. It was a moment mistaken for it. And the cost was trust, once broken, rarely rebuilt.